Yeah, so I'm at Charlotte Christian full time. So I do 2 to 3 classes during the school year, 2 to 3 classes a day, and then after school groups. For the most part, we see probably about 80% of our student athlete population after school. So it's pretty time consuming trying to make that as efficient as possible. We're currently in 1,400 square feet too, but we have a new weight room moving down the pipeline that will triple in size, which will be major upgrade for us. So I'm there full time, and then I'm the director of performance at X2 Baseball, which is a private baseball training facility up in Concord, North Carolina, where I do a lot of that work more so remotely. So I handle a lot more of the backside of our really performance initiatives. So we have some coaches that are in the facility full time that kind of keep an eye on our guys that are moving through the strength and conditioning program. So I'm able to be in the facility about twice a week, usually for about 3 to 4 hours in a shot. During the school year, it's one night a week, and then on Saturday mornings. And then in the summer, I'm there on Mondays and Fridays, kind of late morning into early afternoon. And then I also run my own private training business that Charlotte Christian allows me to do on campus with no overhead, which is awesome. So I have anywhere from a rising sixth grader all the way up to college athletes that are home in the summer. I have some like return to play cases that I work through during school breaks. So it's nice because the school season slows down, and then that's a time that my private training can go up because frankly, like if the college kids come home, they need a place to train. So I'm able to utilize our facility. I have some interesting clients that I work with and everything kind of like through there. Really started as really a pipe dream of having a passion for return to play, and started with that, and then has grown to, I kind of call them all like my high performance clients, where a lot of them are Division I athletes, whether from a return to play standpoint or from like just looking for a different high performance kind of like dynamic, to kind of like bridge the gap, whether they're a rising freshman or, hey, I'm transferring now, I'm moving into grad school, I'm using my grad year to kind of wrap up my career. I really just want to make sure that I'm healthy and high performing when I transition to the new school. Obviously, with the landscape of college athletics now, it's a interesting dynamic to work within, as because literally got off a call last night with a college coach where all of a sudden a kid decommitted from his school 2 weeks ago, and now he's recommitting to a different school, and then he's going to be on campus in 2 weeks. So it's just like figuring out that landscape of just like, well, what's this kid going to be ready for? I'm just like, this is what I think he's ready for, but he's also going to be a rising freshman in college. Like there's only so much that we can get him ready for in 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow. Anybody listening to that, hopefully you're probably like, man, I'm lazy. I'm complaining about things and I'm not out there doing things like Kyle is. My question building off of that is, how did you get your hand in all, like, what's the genesis? What was the first thing that led to the next? Because you talked about kind of the pipe dream. So elaborate and pull on that stuff, those threads.
Yeah, so I graduated grad school during COVID.
Aye,
So
aye.
COVID created situations that I had to figure out what the heck we were going to do, which brought me to high school strength and conditioning. For a while, like I was in the collegiate sector, I was in the private sector, and then I applied for a job at Cannon School over in Concord, North Carolina. It was a part-time strength and conditioning position, but I looked at my then fiance at the time, and we were just like, hey, we want to move back south. We were living in sunny and warm Buffalo and Rochester, New York before then. So we were just like, let's go back south, where we actually met. We met in Southern Virginia, where I went to undergrad. So took kind of a chance, took a big risk, moved 7 states away from any family that I've had to work in high school strength and conditioning, which I didn't even necessarily really know was a field. I went to a private school growing up, but we didn't have a strength coach. Like that was no shot that that was happening at the high school level in early 2010s. Always kind of had a passion for a return to play. So I started as part-time at Cannon School, but then we found a need that we needed to transition the bridge between athletic training and strength and conditioning. So I had worked in orthopedic surgery. I'd worked in physical therapy. I was an athlete and an injured athlete myself. So always kind of thought in that kind of thought process. So Cannon School gave me an opportunity that I was able to handle. I was the assistant strength coach and a return to play coordinator. So that gave me a full-time position. Thought I was going to be there for a while. Then all of a sudden, a director position at the largest high school in the state of North Carolina came open. So took that jump there. That kind of put my name on the map, just frankly, from a volume standpoint. From there, I became state director of the NHSSCA. And then all of a sudden, I got a call a year or almost 2 years into my position at Ardrey Kell High School from Charlotte Christian, where I'm at now. And they're just like, hey, we have an opening for a director of strength and conditioning. We want to kind of look at this slightly differently, like make it more competitive. And like, we've heard really, really good things about you. So then got to Charlotte Christian and put myself into a South Charlotte population where it is plentiful of good athletes as well as financially well off. So was able to just kind of be in that realm. But a lot of the time it was a sport coach reaching out to me of like, hey, I got a girl that needs strength and conditioning. So like my first ever remote athlete that I trained, she was training like with our club or with our Cannon School volleyball coach at the volleyball club. And she's like, I got a girl who's 6 feet tall. She's 14 years old. Like, she needs strength and conditioning. So like her assessment was literally done over Zoom because it was like peak COVID. And she's just like, yep, I got dumbbells 5 to 25 pounds. And if we want to get bands, we can get bands. Can you build a strength and conditioning program? I'm just like, sure. Because I mean, I would do anything for 75, $100 at that point in time, you know, like, and then it just grew and grew and grew. And it's funny now because she's been my longest like remote client. She actually trained in person for a little bit, but now she's a rising freshman in college. So it's awesome. It's awesome to see that, like, even though that she only had 5 to 25 pound dumbbells, like, she still made it happen. And we had a system in place that just, it worked for her and provided value for her. And then she told her friend about it. And then now her friend's going to be a rising freshman in college and play beach volleyball. Like, it's just, it's grown and grown and grown from there. I've been super lucky with who's just fallen into my lap too. Like some of my athletes at Charlotte Christian are some of the best in the country. We just don't have the depth that some other schools have. So I say we have a super high ceiling, and then we plummet really, really fast just because we're a 400 kid high school, all in all. So like a football team, like we got multiple 3 and 4 star kids, but then like, I'm like, man, if one of our offensive linemen get hurt, like we're going to be putting out a 180 pounder to be playing guard and stuff. So it's an interesting dynamic to kind of do with that. But really, that's how I've kind of like built like my career. Never saw myself as a high school strength coach, but I mean, wouldn't trade it for a world now.
Yeah. And so I was looking down at my phone before you were talking, because I'm like, man, this school sounds really familiar. And I was like, notable alumni. And I don't want to do this disservice. Like, you can go ahead and say the names of some of the people, because, oh, wow. Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about the National High School Strength Coaches Association National Conference, which is going to be held in Memphis, Tennessee, June 26th to June 28th. As you know, on the Cheeky Midweeky, we've done a deep dive into high school strength and conditioning, and I have started working in the high school setting myself. This is something that I'm passionate about and want to continue to advocate for. Not only will this event allow you to learn from great speakers, including Adam and MK Fight, Coach Richard Burnett, as well as Coach Jimmy Radcliffe. Coach Jimmy Radcliffe has presented Inside Strength Coach Network. Adam and MK have been on the Cheeky Midweeky, and so has Coach Burnett. You're going to learn from great presenters. You're going to be able to learn and network. And if this is something where you're interested in getting into high school strength and conditioning, I highly recommend you checking it out. I will be attending the event in 2026. So click the link down below for more information. Remember, the dates, June 26th to June 28th, down in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah. So we have Steph Curry is our probably most notable alumni, Steph and Seth. So that's an interesting dynamic. We have currently 4 professional baseball players, like literally in the MLB right now. Bailey Ober is with the Minnesota Twins, which is funny because he's a Charlotte Christian alumni, then also trains at X2 in the off season. So it's just like I'm around him on a really consistent basis. And then our most recent claim to fame is that I get to work every single day with the likes of Greg Olson, Luke Kuechly, Jonathan Stewart, Todd Blackledge, and Greg Olson's dad, who is our middle school football coaching staff. So it's a really interesting place, really, really exciting for us. But yeah, like I think Anthony Gill is in the NBA, is an alum of the school. He's still around. Like I get to run the warm ups at the Anthony Gill basketball camp in July, which is super fun. We got multiple NFL guys that have kind of like grown through it, and it's been it's an awesome place to be. And a lot of the questions that I get a lot of the time is just like, what's it like working with Greg Olson and Luke Kuechly? I'm just like, man, it's the coolest thing in the world, because also those people can freaking coach.
Really?
Like sometimes like you meet like those pro guys that like are running like a speed camp, and it's really just like they just put their name on it. Like, no, Greg and Luke and Stu and Todd are like, they're in the trenches. Like they are really coaching these kids, and they're super supportive from like our strength and conditioning dynamic too. Like 6:45 a.m. in the spring. So from spring break to the end of the school year, 6:45 a.m. I had over 40 middle school football players training in our weight room.
That's awesome.
Literally at 6:45 in the morning, because frankly, Greg Olson said this is important. And then if Greg Olson's saying it, then kids are probably going to listen a lot of the time. One of the funniest stories though, so in the spring, and kind of going off the rails here, Luke wasn't coming to the workouts for a little bit, but then like some of these kids are like the biggest Carolina Panthers fans, because I mean we're 20 minutes from the Carolina Panthers stadium.
Oh, okay.
So a kid like walks in, like the like super graphic t-shirts that these kids are wearing now. Like there's like Shania Twain will have one, and like whatever, like rapper. So like a kid was wearing like a Luke shirt, like a Luke Kuechly shirt. And then Luke came into workouts like as like Greg was like addressing the team, and you could hear like a couple of them like laughing underneath their breath, because the kid's just like hands behind his back, like chest like proud, wearing this like Luke Kuechly graphic t-shirt. And Luke just like points at him. He's like, Ryan, that's a sweet shirt. And that just like keeps it moving. It was it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see little kids kind of like have that dynamic with them. But I mean, those guys are heck of some coaches. I mean, they coach to a T. I mean, they're some of the best coaches I've been around, let alone some of the best people I've been around too.
Before we get into any of the other things that I wrote down, I want to double tap on this middle school thing, because I think people in America can get kind of messed up on it. And even like strength coaches will hear like middle school kids don't need to do any strength and conditioning. And it's like, you can progress and regress everything, especially if you look at the way kids play on playgrounds. If you just step back as a parent and you see what goes on. And then if you also take another step back and look at what goes on in the world, and maybe you don't need to be doing what like China does by plucking 8-year-olds away from their family. But if you look at the academy setting for soccer, but football for our European audience, they have a pipeline that get like, hey, you're in this, U13 program, you're in this U16 program, U18 program, to help you potentially reach, the main A1 club. And I see that as what can kind of be happening in middle schools and high schools when we employ good strength and conditioning coaches like yourself, like Ross, everybody shout out to the SAC that has been on this entire podcast. But like when you can do things that way, but then also into the middle school, right? And the middle school knows what's going on in the high school. And this is close to my heart, because the high school that I was at up the road, Centennial, their middle school is 7th, 8th grade. And then they run their own program in the summer, and they don't really communicate as well with the high school, but we're working on that now. And it's like, if you can build that pipeline, and now you're really setting these kids up for success. So that's my tangent to tee you up on your thoughts in it.
Yeah. So I think like the biggest thing like for us is, especially in today's age, how ready can we get them as freshmen in high school? And like going back to like even like our depth like dynamic, like we'll have young kids, especially on the female side, that need to be ready to play varsity athletics at a super young age. So what can we do to actually help that process? So for us, it's like hopefully starting middle school strength and conditioning early. And it's not like, oh, we're not barbell bench pressing and like doing
you're
like
not
snatches.
Max effort.
And
You're
like
not max effort,
yeah.
dynamic effort, Louis
Exactly.
Simmons.
Like it's getting them moving in a way that allows us to have them have a base. So that way when they get to high school, they are at least they've checked enough boxes that I'm like, hey, we can integrate them into a training session of 40 guys and 1,400 square feet. We can integrate them into a training session that keeps them safe, but also helps them continue their development that they're already getting. So like for us, so like with our middle school stuff, like especially in a post-COVID world, like kids don't know how to move that well anymore. So a lot of our skips and jumps and landing and tumbling and like all of that like dynamic allows our middle school program to be really, really fun, but then also just get a really good base of GPP, for example, or just simple like movement competencies, like being able to squat well, being able to hinge well, being able to jump well, being able to land well. Because there might be a call, like if a kid develops really, really early on, there might be a call that there will be a freshman playing at the varsity level. Our baseball team this year had 3 freshmen in the starting lineup. And that's a team that's won 19 state championships in the school's history. Oh, wow. Like it's like these freshmen now need to be ready to go. Luckily, those 3 freshmen had been around strength and conditioning and good quality strength and conditioning prior to that. So their bodies are at least used to that being a part of the process. Because if our high school coaches are stressing it, then our middle school coaches should be stressing it. So going back to like you like missing out on the communication chain, like that's the biggest like thorn in the side at the end of the day, because it's just like, well, I need to assume that you know nothing when you're a freshman, compared to if you've been around me for the past 2 years, I can be like, I can say the word RDL and you know what an RDL looks like.
And making sure that you got a competent individual running that program, right? And making sure that the
Correct.
school system will actually pay that person to have a livable salary. So that way, sure, if they want to do all the extra things that you do and because you choose to do that, awesome. But not because they're getting a stipend of $3,000, you know, in the fall, the summer, and the spring, and now that's $9,000, and they can't even live and keep a roof over their head. Like if you can actually do that, and we can push our organizations together and find a way for the NSCA and NHSSCA and governing bodies to work together to empower these schools to get good people in the middle school and get them into the high school. Because think about in the middle school, pouring another individual like you or somebody else that's pouring into middle school kids in these formidable developmental time in their life, and they can have another anchored rock person that can kind of be teaching them the discipline and accountability, not the like, you know what I'm saying, but like actually being a good human being. Like, hey, wear shoes to the weight room instead of hey dudes or Crocs or slides. I know, like I know that's something you deal with.
Yeah, so it's interesting, like, well, like working with the middle schoolers, especially because I'm the director of athletic performance, so I oversee all of our everything that falls underneath that. But it's funny because a lot of the time our middle schoolers are with my interns, so we run like a full like internship programming because it allows the interns to coach, but then it also like lets the kids feel like, oh, I got a person that's like for me. Because like a lot of the time, like outside middle school football, our middle school groups are really, really small right now. So sometimes it's like 10 athletes to 3 intern coaches. So it's super hands-on. So like I know the kids are getting developed well. My interns are getting developed well because the kids need that development point. So then it's just like it's just a system that just keeps the train rolling. So that way I know that there is that competency and like everything else. So like that does follow like under like my umbrella, but I know that was the limitation. Like when I was at Ardrey Kell High School, where we had 3,700 students, 9 through 12. We had 3 middle schools that fed into that. I had no idea what our rising freshmen would have been exposed to. Literally zero clue, because there definitely wasn't a middle school strength coach. When I got hired at Ardrey Kell, I was the only full-time public school strength coach in the state of North Carolina. Like we are way, way, way behind on that. So I had to like literally look at our freshmen and put them in a separate group, which then required more time out of me, but I wasn't getting paid more for that. But that was the only way my program could survive. So there's such a limiting factor that if we're not able to access middle school, or the middle school's too big, or we're not putting a competent person in there, then it's missing. Because really what I'm trying to create, especially on the female side with our middle schoolers, is that the weight room is not a scary place.
Get CEUs faster, cheaper, and more convenient than ever before with Strength Coach Network. Hey, it's Justin, here to tell you about how Strength Coach Network can now help you out with our premium membership and CEUs to the NSCA and CSCCa. Upon signing up for our premium membership, you will get 2.0 or 10 CEUs immediately. That is an entire year's worth of CEUs that you are able to access from the convenience of your office. No traveling for conferences, no waiting on flights, no eating out, no expensive hotels. Just the good stuff from great coaches. Now, if you need extra CEUs for past years during the reporting period, we can bundle Fundamentals 1 or 2, which also come with 2.0 or 10 CEUs to your purchase. That way, you're able to take care of your CEUs for the best price, most convenient, and learn from some of the best coaches. If you want more help with this, email us at service@strengthcoachnetwork or visit us at strengthcoachnetwork.com, and I would be delighted to help you out.
Being strong is cool. Being stable is cool. And being able to do that and then see that on an often basis. So what I love about like just our weight room placement on our campus is that all of our PE locker rooms are in the same hallway. So kids in the middle school level that may not be going into the weight room at all, at least walk by the weight room every single day. So there's sometimes that I just go stand out in that hallway because I know what I look like. I'm a tattooed, bearded, like larger guy. I don't want that 7th grade middle school girls volleyball player to be like, that guy's scary. So I just go stand out in that hallway. Like some of the girls like know me, like they get like excited, like fist bump, like everything else. And they're just on the way to go play lacrosse in PE that day. But that touch point alone, that visibility piece alone helps grow our program tenfold. And it's only going to continue to help us because of that visibility piece. So just being around and being a usable entity, being able to have that location is crucial for us in our growth because it was a program that I took over that we needed to grow. We needed to do it better, especially on the female side. We needed to make a weight room a space that they felt that they could come in and grow physically, spiritually, mentally, all of the above. And that's been my number one goal at every single weight room that I've taken over. Of just like, this is a place that failure is okay too, because that's like in the back of our t-shirts literally say fail fast. If you put in full effort and you fail, I don't care. I think that's great. And where else in their life, especially today, in the toxic cultures of today, are we allowing kids to do that? So if I can start that 6th, 7th grade compared to 9th, 10th grade, like just think about the developmental pieces of a whole entire kid's life.
Amen. I got goosebumps as you were saying it because it's so true. Like let them learn and let it be the safe place where like, okay, hey, you know, you tried that rep, you failed. Okay, cool. Moving on. Like doesn't define you, not even a little bit. Here's your place to figure it out. So that way when you're in a game and you fail, like, okay, cool. You know what doesn't work. So you know what does work to use in your movement competency tool on the field.
Yep.
That's fantastic. With what you said about the 2, you know, sometimes you get 2 to 3 during the day, not a lot pre, but mainly post. I'm asking all this because a lot of strength coaches are like, all right, you know, you're employed, are you employed as the teacher, you're employed as the strength coach? Which one is it? Because it's all different for them where they get hired based on their school. And I know that. How did you able to get some athletes lifting 2 to 3 times during the day? And then how do you manage post with, you know, a lot of people might want the immediate right after school time. Like how do you handle any of that, the scheduling conflict? Because that's a legit concern logistically.
Yeah. So, I mean, my number one goal is to grow our population during the day. We will never get to a point that we have sport only classes. So, like, if you look in other states, just thinking South Carolina, who's local to us, like they have football class where sometimes
Georgia, Bama, some of those schools
yeah,
do too. Yeah.
correct. So sometimes they have a football class that sometimes it's in the weight room, sometimes it's film, sometimes it's practice, like everything else. We will never get to that point because we run on an A-day, B-day, 4-block-a-day schedule. Like if we only have 4 blocks a day, we ain't getting all of our athletes in a specific strength class. Like it's just not going to happen for us, at least in the current state of how our school is structured. So our goal, like when we're communicating with our athletes, especially when the scheduling comes out, is that taking the athletic conditioning class allows you to do a little bit more and get a little bit more out of your programs. So if a kid is super motivated, especially like if they want to play at the collegiate level, they want to take that class because instead of a 30-minute team session after school, we have an 85-minute block in school. So like we can actually get a true full warm up in, we can get speed work in, you can actually like rest in between reps on the shred mill and like everything else. Like that, just that dynamic allows it. And then they kind of get a little bit of a study hall with it too, because you're going to go until you fill all the time that I feel like you need to fill, and then you're good. Like I'm not just going to fill 85 minutes just to say that I filled 85 minutes. So trying to get more kids into the class during the day is important to us because it also saves us room after school. Because currently, like I said, like we're in 1,400 square feet. There's sometimes I'm over 50 athletes training at the same time within that space. Wow. So if I can take out 5 because they got their team lift in during the day, that's great. Yeah. And sometimes our sport coaches, speaking to football right now, want their older guys, probably some of their higher minute players, taking the class during the day. So then they can take a half hour to meet as a group, or half hour to get extra film or get extra reps in, or like, hey, we got to install this and like everything else. So our goal is to get kids in during the day. Not great. Like I said, probably 80% of our kids train after school. So the way that we look at that is that in-season teams get 2 30 to 45-minute blocks a week. The way we set priorities is that we go in-season, next season, off-season. So if we are in-season, you get priority time. Some sports want before practice. Some sports want after practice. So like I know like baseball for us, baseball is a huge sport. They want after practice. And I'm just like, great, awesome. I don't need to worry about 40 guys until 5:30 p.m. Great with me. Cool. We're going to go after practice. What also helps us thinking about like spring is because we have 2 full-size turf fields. So we have like the football stadium, we call it Knight Stadium, and then we have another turf field that is soccer, lacrosse only. We have middle school sports on campus. We have upper school, aka high school sports on campus. Those middle school sports start right after school, but middle school ends a little bit earlier than we do. So sometimes they're on the field until 4:30. So thinking about like my girls lacrosse group, for example, they're on the field until 4:30. So girls lacrosse can't start practice until 4:30. So now I'm like, all right, sweet. I can get girls lacrosse in at 4 p.m. or 3:45 when the earliest group starts at 3:30. So then we were able to like build it out like with that. Off season, for the most part, they get like that 4 o'clock time, which is kind of like our dead zone. Like when our in-season teams are practicing, our dead zone's kind of that like middle time where it's just like open off season. We're able to build it out from there. And then that next season sometimes can get a little bit hairy. I try to bucket all of our kids into just like a general off season. And the way we go about programming is the same way. All of our off-season kids are doing the same program as each other. All of our in-season sports will have very alike programming or getting into a little bit more like specific programming depending on who they share the space with. So I know like girls lacrosse and girls soccer a lot of the time end up in the weight room at the same time. I need to make sure that their programming looks very similar, just at least from an equipment standpoint. So I'm just like, all right, I know that I want to work probably ISO split squats with girls soccer today, but then girls lacrosse is going to be doing reverse lunges. Those can happen in the same space really, really easily. So it's just looking at it from a bird's eye view from a programming standpoint that allows weight room flow, as well as sometimes there's staggered starts. Sometimes we're starting a group every 15 minutes where, all right, like you're already into B. B for the most part is happening in the rack area. A for the most part is usually happening in the dumbbell area because my room's basically split in half.
And ideally, your
A is happening
B,
there.
Even if it's like
there.
not a reverse lunge and a squat, the rack is at the same height, and you're not having to waste time going from squat to bench.
Correct. Yeah. So I need to know where my benches are. I need to know like, oh, these kettlebells are going to be outside. Oh, these bands are already going to be on the racks. Hey, like we're going to do slightly different things, but then also like logistically really the same stuff.
Strength coaches, listen to that. That might sound like a throwaway comment, but I can't emphasize that enough. Like, you need to know every little detail about it, because like if he's crunched for time, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes is huge. Like, and it can make or break an entire function and flow of what's going on. So be that obsessive about what he just talked about. Like, maybe rewind and re-listen to that. Be that obsessive in that detailed, because I mean, shout out to you. That just shows your pride and your dedication into what you do. Like, that's fantastic.
What's up, everybody? Taking a quick break from the show to talk about one of our sponsors, Team Builder. I've been using Team Builder since 2019 when I was at Towson. I still use it with my remote athletes. I also use it at Goldfinch, which is the private sector gym I train at, and we use it at Centennial, which is the high school that I'm working at. Now, if you're printing on lift cards because you say, oh, I can't afford Team Builder, guess what? Team Builder has a pre-written grant that you can locate on their website. You simply change the name of you, your organization, and the areas that they highlighted, and they can help you get Team Builder at your facility, your university, whatever it is, so that way you can optimize how you train your athletes with this software. Now, Team Builder is also a part owner in the Plyomat. The Plyomat is something that I utilize at Goldfinch, and it helps you be able to see how high somebody jumped, the ground contact time, and RSI. You can get all that conveniently right there. You can reach out to your rep from Team Builder to be able to get more information on the Plyomat. It's fast, it's reliable, it's convenient, and it's trusted by coaches worldwide. Check them out as well as Team Builder in the link down below.
Yeah. If I won the lottery tonight, I think I would still show up to work tomorrow.
Amen. Right?
Might sleep a little more, might play golf a little bit more, but showing up to work in shorts and a t-shirt and doing what I do every single day is the most rewarding. Because like I even know how like Facebook gives you like memories and like stuff. So 5 years ago on Tuesday of this week, I accepted that job at Cannon School. Okay. So like I had this moment that I'm just like, man, it's only been 5 years. I'm just like, I wouldn't trade any of this to the world.
Strength coach years are like
I was thinking about, and I was thinking about like, I used to like do like my laundry and like the drum washer and dryer at the school on the weekends just to save a few bucks. Like I was hopping from like Airbnb to Airbnb. Like I was staying with friends, like everything else. Like you get really good at sleeping on couches. So it's really interesting, and it's really interesting now because now Canon has had so they're on their third new assistant since I left. The previous two assistants after me have become directors at specific schools, okay. And now the new assistant's actually living at my house. Wow! So it's really cool, like for us, because like my wife even talked about it, because I like asked my wife like, "Hey, I know this guy, like he needs a place to stay," and my wife looked me dead in the face and she's just like, well, if you had that person when you were his age and you were in that position, like you wanted a couch to stay on too. So let's give him a place to stay. And I was just like that was like one of the more like heartfelt things that like I've been able to be a part of, and like everything else is that like now I'm able to like feed back into a younger population. And like now it's just like, and talking about like my internship program, like I've had 7 interns go be directors at like specific schools. Like some of them, like four of my former interns started a strength and conditioning program at a high school. Wow. You want to talk about rewarding? Like there's no dollar amount that's worth all of that. And like, that's why I show up every day. Like you already talked about like, man, like you work a lot. And I'm just like, but I love what I do. Yeah. Like I'm able to show up and like watch kids chase dreams. And like, I made a post like the other day, really like to my athletes to like kind of like thank them for the last 5 years. I'm just like, I came in with a pipe dream, but I can't chase my dreams if you don't chase yours. So it's the same thing with coaching. It's the same thing with athletics. Like there's no one to coach, then
amen.
This is nothing.
COVID flipped that on its head for me, because coaches can't coach without athletes. And when the athletes were gone, athletes can still play sport without a coach. They might not be as good, but they can still do it. If you are coaching no athletes, you're not coaching. You're just by yourself.
Yeah.
Amen. Sure. Amen to that. God, I was going to say something about, the way in anybody that heard you and they're like, oh, well, lacrosse and soccer shouldn't be doing the exact same program. Listen, y'all got to chill out with high school and middle. Like, yes, when we were advocating for high school and middle school strength and conditioning, it doesn't mean that every little kid has their different program. Like, there is tons of generalities that things like 80% of that program for all those athletes needs to be the exact same because they need to get better at squatting, lunging, hinging, pressing, pulling, the tried and true principles that are on everybody's weight room floor. That's what they need to do. But then the minute a coach says, hey, everybody kind of does the same thing, even though we have that same thing postered, everybody wants to be like, well, you're not individualizing. It's like, you don't know what I'm doing. The 20%, yeah, we'll individualize a little bit, but most of these girls or guys, boys, just need to get in there and train and stress their body.
Yeah. Yeah. If anyone wants to buy my FMS kit that's sitting in our high school weight room closet, it's up for sale. I might even let you pick it up for free because it's not going to be used for us.
Did you see the
am
post?
I going to assess these things?
The post that I just put about the FMS and go to people, how in common,
Yeah.
right? Like it's always like, don't do, and it's like, listen, we threw baby out with the bathwater. FMS came in as something like it can be a global tool that, like you said, one practitioner to the other, hey, he's a two, but even within that, there's the inter-rater reliability issue. But then it just turned into this whole big microcosm. Like, yeah, amen to that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and it's even like I've talked to these coaches, and especially like feeding my interns, like I've started to put this specific slide, and it didn't come from me. I actually heard it from Dan Fichter the first time, and then he probably heard it from somebody else. Like the difference between collecting dots versus connecting dots. Like an FMS thing is just like, really at the end of the day, is that just collecting dots of just like, oh, you're this score, so this is what your program looks like. But are you actually like connecting those things?
And to think
so it's just like we're so stuck in that rut of just like, I gotta collect all these data points.
Or even with your,
but then what are you actually utilizing those things for?
Yeah, can't stand it. Or like this like, oh, your HRV is going to tell you what you're going to do for the day. No, it's not. Like, no, It's just not going to do that. And any strength coach that's listening to this and you were full blown Omega Wave or FMS, like, okay, he's got to do cook squat. Like, no, please put your brain back in your head. You've had it removed.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny. I was going back with a guy I used to work with, cause he's just like, I used to do the McGill Big Three when my back hurt. He's just like, I used to apply for some of my clients. He's like, it worked for some, it didn't work for others, and we kept it moving. And that like kind of like made me take a step back. So it was funny because I posted a video of my field hockey athlete going through some of her off-season stuff, and she's got a back injury. So a lot of our work is in the nature that like we're trying to kind of like adapt from some stuff like with that. But he even commented on it. He's just like, watch out, coach. He's like, that spine might be bending too much. And I literally commented back. I'm like, sorry, I forgot my bubble wrap at home.
Let's talk about this new weight room. Tripling in size? Like, are you getting to design it, or is will people above you be designing it? And I ask because that happened to Greg over here. Like it's literally like an office space where he's like, I have 7 bosses that tell me when I do something wrong, like things get approved. Yeah. And then the final person's like, who has nothing to do with the weight room's like, no, we don't need that here. So that's why I asked that.
Yeah. So like our current weight room space, is challenging. So we have basically 8 platforms. I would call them more like just squat stands. Like there is no inside and outside the rack. I don't have bridges. Like my bar holders are in between the racks. And it's double-sided. So the platforms are like opposite, so you would face each other. And that's on one side of the room. And then the other side of the room is really like open space. So like my athletic director knows that flow space doesn't work because he's walked into the weight room and he's just like, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. He's just like, but I can see that there is like locations to each thing. So it's been funny because this has been a long time coming. This is a very, very large project for our campus. This will be over $20 million worth of a project. Oh, wow. So it's new basketball gym, new athletic training room, weight room, wrestling room. Like it's an athletic center at the end of the day. But it was funny because we were sitting and having conversations about it, and he was very intentfully saying like, I want you to have a hand in designing it because a lot of time these builders don't know what it needs to look like.
What's up, everybody? Taking a quick break from the show to talk about one of our sponsors, Hawkin Dynamics. I've been using Hawkin Dynamics ever since I was at Towson. Still utilize it today when I'm at the private sector at Goldfinch. Even brought the plates from Goldfinch over to Centennial to do some force plate testing with the football team there. We've done force plate testing with other high school athletes. It is something that you need to get. If you want more help with it about how to practically use it and you want to reach out to us, feel free to reach out to us at service@strengthcoachnetwork.com. Not only do I utilize it with lower body assessments, I use it with upper body assessments, plyo push-ups, prone Y assessments. You can also utilize it for what I call an upper body isometric mid thigh pull, where essentially you're doing a push-up at the strongest range and you're pushing into an immovable force, so a barbell, same way you do an isometric mid thigh pull. Like I said, been using them for years. Valid, reliable. The customer service is fantastic. Go check out Hawkin Dynamic in the link down below, and you will not be disappointed.
Because it was even funny because they've been presenting these things to these parents looking for fundraising for this building and using renderings of a weight room that I'm just like, if that's my weight room, I'm going to be pissed off. And I literally had to go to the head of school and be like, man, this isn't I'm just like, if that's the weight room, that's not going to work. And we sat there and had a conversation about why doesn't that work? Why with our program does that location or this many racks like everything else? At one point I got a rendering that had 20 racks in a 4,000 square foot weight room, but my largest group is 50 kids. And I'm just like, I don't need 20 racks. I need more space. Yeah. So it's just being able to ideally get to a point where we are working in that. And it was really, really rewarding back in January when we were talking about this, and our head of school, aka you can't even call him a principal. Head of school is the overseer of everything. He was clicking through slides talking about the new athletic facility, and he stopped on what said the weight room, and he's just like, I want you all to see that this language is changing. This is not a weight room. This will be an athletic performance center. And I was just like, I sat up, I was up in the back. I tweeted out with the "You're my boy" blue GIF and everything too. Cause I was just like, but that's what I wanted them to understand. This isn't a weight room. This is something that's trying to increase all of these dynamics. We have a shred mill, we're going to have turf inside the weight room, we're a big med ball program. We want to be able to do all of these things outside of the barbell. So don't give me more locations that I just have to use a barbell. And they started to understand that, and we're able to work through it. So I do have a hand in the design process. I'll have a conversation here in the next couple of weeks about budget, because the last conversation was not close, of just well, this is what we think we can spend on equipment. I'm just like, our weight room's tripling in size. I don't think that's going to be we're not going to fill that new space with very much equipment at that price. So they're willing to listen on it, because our program has grown a lot. We grew attendance rates by over 70% in the first year that I took over the program. Females alone went up over 200%. So it's just as well as it's a 24/7, I wouldn't say 24/7, but it's happening every single day. And this was my problem at the public school level, because the weight room wasn't getting updated, or hey, the weight room was falling apart, or at one point I didn't have air conditioning in North Carolina weight room in July. And they're just well, it's a classroom. And I'm just it's not a classroom. I'm just your chemistry labs sit empty for 3 to 4 months out of the year. Is there a week that my weight room is ever empty? And they kind of took a step back, and they're like, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So at one point, the district that I was working under was tracking attendance rates just in the summer alone. When I was at Ardrey-Kell, we were averaging over 400 kids a day in the weight room. That chemistry lab averaged 0 per day in the weight room.
Did you then talk about
in the classroom?
Did you then talk about not only just because we did this at Towson to raise and again, shout out to you for being hey, here's an issue, but here's how to fix it. And so again,
Correct.
strength coaches, be willing to be like, hey, here's the issue. Here's how we fix it. Like, don't just be like, this is a problem. So what we said to admin was like, listen, these barbells or the racks, like every single time that bar gets racked or we're putting weight on and off of it, like think of, okay, our weight room is running from, 6 a.m. until 6 p.m, 5 days a week. But it's also like, it's going the whole time. It's not Planet Fitness where it's open and I don't know how much, like this thing is under continual use. Think about the number of man hours that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just like being able to like quantify those things alone is really important. And especially like where being at a private school where they need to decide where they invest. And then it's the same thing kind of at the college level, especially like if you're at a lower college level. I was a D3 athlete. So I felt it. Shout out Lynchburg College to me, University of Lynchburg, and Ed over there, who's all of a sudden went from like a basement weight room to 7 racks to now 14 racks and like everything else. But like, he was able to portray a way that like, look at the volume of things that we are doing on a regular basis. And then it's the same thing like now that I'm working at a private high school where they need to decide where they're investing the money that's coming in. But if I'm saying that I'm impacting this percent of the population, this many hours of the day, this many days per year, then you don't think that's going to help you a little bit? And some of it's like you do have to bite your tongue at some points. But like when I was able to sit down and compare, all right, February 2023, or am I doing my math right? No, February 2024 to February 2025. This is the growth that has happened in this year. And I sent that to our director of academics, our head of school, our upper school principal, our athletic director, because the only one that really ever sees the weight room is the athletic director. But if I'm saying that I'm impacting all these populations, academics, the head of school, the upper school principal, like, why don't I try to get those people on board and have them understand that how much is going on? Because it was the same thing, because I was pushing to get an assistant. So I started all of this process of all this data tracking and attendance tracking, like everything else. And then all of a sudden my assistant position got approved. So if you're not tracking those things and being really, really confident in what you're doing and showing growth, then I definitely suggest that you do it, because at the end of the day, it's only going to help you.
Amen to that. And good to you for doing that, because Cody Hughes was doing something very similar. Like, like shout out to you for that. Speaking of Cody, I want to dive into, why do you think people, and maybe you want to answer it yourself, but like, why do you think you were getting so many return to play clients? Because you mentioned that yourself. You talked about that on an episode with Cody. Like, what is it about you that made you be somebody that was coming to you for that specific reason?
So constantly, I always wanted to look at stuff differently than what the textbooks told you. And it's the same conversation that I've had. Like, I literally just got off call that I'm working with a yoga teacher that's designing how she actually teaches other yoga teachers. Where it's just like, if it's an online course or something, like how can we then go apply it? Because it's the same thing like with, like, I'm getting masters of strength and conditioning students as interns, which is great because they got a great knowledge base, but then how can they go apply it? Because like I go back to my time at Davidson College during COVID, 20 kilogram kettlebells and bands. You're on plywood platforms outside in Mass. Go run a Division I strength and conditioning program. You want to be a better coach? Go do that. So I've constantly always just wanted to look at stuff differently. It all started where I was in high school. I was a high school wrestler at a little school called Blair Academy. If you know high school wrestling, like, you probably know the name that comes with that. I think they've won 41 national titles now. But I broke my neck in 3 places my sophomore year. Broke my C4, C5, C6, was told I was never going to play sports again. Like, I was lucky to be walking like everything else. Wow. Less than 2 months later, I was fully cleared for all activity. And then at that moment, I was just like, well, why that? I had a 20-inch neck. I was wrestling 195 as a 15-year-old. Like I was not a normal high schooler at all, but I credited the shape that I was in.
What's up, y'all? Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about another one of our sponsors, Vitr. I've been utilizing Vitr for a while now, and I absolutely love the convenience of this app. The encoder is at a price that you cannot beat compared to the competitors. Also, I don't personally like the camera apps. I've known that they continue to break down, and I really enjoy having this encoder attached directly to the bar. Vitr does that. Not only does it do that, but it'll show me velocity loss during the set, shows me average velocity, all of it right within the app. Not only that, for the app on the individual athlete, there's a Vitruve Teams app where now, as the coach, I can see all the results from my athletes. I can API that into my team builder, and now everything that I'm trying to do, get better competition, better intent in the weight room, I am able to do with Vitruve. If you want more information about them, click the link down below, or you can ask us questions directly at service@strengthcoachnetwork.com, and we would love to answer those questions for you.
So I wanted to protect myself. Started interning with physical therapy. Originally thought I was going to be a physician's assistant. Realized that I'm not that damn smart. So I'm not going to get into school. So then I was just like, well, I like the science piece. I like coaching. I like sports. Like I'm gonna try to be a strength coach. So I've constantly just like kind of like went down that realm, but I've been super lucky with the mentors that I've had. Where like I was a Matt Gildersleeve intern at University of Buffalo. He taught me speed. I saw that in like a different light. I was really lucky. Like my first NSCA clinic that I ever went to, Dan Fichter spoke at.
Nice.
Like I had just gotten my CSCS and like I was on top of the world. Like I know everything. And then it's just like I learned RPR for the first time and I was just like, what is going on? And then I went and saw velocity based training, like everything else. So I was grown and thrown into having to challenge my thought process. So I always had a passion for return to play because I thought orthopedic surgery was going to be my route, physical therapy was going to be my route. And then I was just like, well, we can blur these lines a little bit more. Like, how can we as performance professionals help that better? So then like it literally started. So last year I had an alum of Charlotte Christian reach out. She had lost her previous 2 seasons of collegiate softball to injury. She dislocated her shoulder swinging a bat her first year and then slipped a disc in her back and lost her whole entire sophomore year. She came in, she was a strength and conditioning All-American in high school. She could hit a ball 300 plus feet, but she couldn't stay healthy. And she wanted to just like literally like talk to me. And she's like, well, why do you think why? And like I watched her move. I'm just like, you can't move that well. Like you're strong, but you can't move that well. So then this year she played every single game, graduated from college in 3 years. Now she's going to get her MBA and she's using her grad transfer year to play at another Division I school. So a success story. Then I got like a collegiate soccer player that came to me and like I talked about it on Cody's podcast with Rock Daisy. Came to me, had a grade 2, grade 3 biceps femoris strain, said, I'm not supposed to run for the next 3 months. But you have 6 weeks to get me back to running. So I'm like, sweet, sounds good to me. Let's do it. And she ran that day and passed her conditioning test 6 weeks later. Right. So having some level of success stories and then word of mouth like that's like led me into this realm. And like, I've just always wanted to challenge the status quo, which is so cancelable in strength and conditioning. Cause it's just like, well, if you're not getting kids strong, then like you're selling them short. Cause it's even going to like the argument and like, I mean, this is a runaround thought. It's even going to the argument, like, and I know Cody said it here too, like we don't do Olympic lifting in our programs. And like, I literally had a collegiate strength coach and he's just like, well, don't you think that you're selling kids short when they go to a collegiate program that does Olympic lifting? And I'm just like, man, if I did my job really well and created a really good mover and handed that to you at the collegiate level, you're going to still take them through technique school. Correct. You're still going to teach them the way that you teach a clean. Correct. So why do I need to spend 4+ years teaching them a clean,
Preach.
let alone in a 1,400 square foot weight room where like 2 of my platforms are literally a foot off the wall with mirror, and then I have a glass like office that's like attached to it and like everything. I'm just like, my decisions a lot of the time is just like I just don't feel safe, because guess what? If little Timmy takes a bar off the teeth at a private school in South Charlotte, where do you think that subpoena is going to? Because it's even just like I bring it up all the time, and it's even circling back to just value at the end of the day. The kid fails the English test, who gets the blame? The kid. If the kid gets hurt in the weight room, who gets the blame? It's usually the coach. So like that's always like the dynamic and everything else. But yeah, like I've nestled myself into kind of like a return to play realm, just frankly because I just wanted to see stuff differently. And it's going back even just to collecting dots versus connecting dots. I've given like presentations with it, but it's even just taking some of the dynamics that we already understand as strength coaches, and then just being like, can I apply that somewhere else? So it's just like I literally gave a presentation, my first presentation I ever gave, which was even funnier because I had to follow up Joe Ken literally for my first presentation, and let the record show that he went a half hour overtime.
For sure.
Naturally.
Side note, he's on the football strength conditioning SIG with me through the NSCA. We're on the executive council together.
Yeah.
At coaches conference in January this year, John Lynch, who's the chair of the executive council, was like, hey, you guys have 1 minute to tee up the question that we're going to ask everybody in this 4-quarter format, 8 minutes a quarter. You have a minute, 7 minutes for everybody else. Joe took the whole 8 minutes.
Yeah, no shot. So it was funny because like I follow him up, and he just talks about like the tier system and like cut and dry like stuff. And then like I talk about like the application of return to play through the lens of triphasic training. So like I'm a Cal Dietz believer. So we built our whole return to play system and utilizing what we've already understood from triphasic, but now applying it to a return to play model. And like, when I say that to some people, and like I remember I said like Chris Kerr on their podcast, Victory Over Self, like he's just like, that makes so much sense, but people don't look at it in that lens. So like from then on, I was just like, I want us to just take the knowledge that we already have and just see it in a different way. Because like we know the sets, reps, intensities, we know triphasic training, we know like all of these different things, but then how can you actually just go apply it into a non-perfect athlete? So it's just adaptation to programming, like everything else has helped us kind of like get there. And then it was like, it was really funny because now like Spinal Engine is getting like a whole lot of like ground and like everything. But I remember Duke had reached out to me to present at the Duke Sports Performance Clinic, which is a great event every single year. And like, I was like talking to the guy, I was like, I got to figure out an outside box, like conference topic. I was like, it's like the freaking Duke Sports Performance Clinic. And it's, it was super interesting because I like heard like the list and everything. Sorry, my dog's going crazy right now. Yeah. I'm like feeling like thuds. So I currently have an 8-pound dog and a 130-pound dog in the house. So it's interesting. But yeah, so I was just like, let's talk about the Spinal Engine. And none of that talk was even like really about the Spinal Engine, like specifically, but it was just the difference between collecting dots versus connecting dots of just like, I'm going to show you things that you've probably seen before, but I want you to see it in a different way.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Powerlift. I used Powerlift when I was at Harvard, Maryland, and the University of Iowa. I was also part of the staff that had the new weight room at the University of Iowa, the 32-rack, beautiful facility. I was a part of that. I also have Powerlift's equipment nowadays. Powerlift Strong, made here in the great state of Iowa in the great country of the United States. They're able to work with you on any customizations that you need, logos, height, whatever it is, the limitations that you have. Their equipment is strong. The people there, they're very good people. Check them out in the link down below. And if you have any questions on how to work with them, reach out to us at service@strengthcoachnetwork.com, and we would be delighted to help.
Because it's not what you look at, it's what you see. I can take anyone off of the street and say, hey, what's that exercise? And they can say it's a squat. but can they see what's happening at the foot? Can they see what's happening at the knee? Can they see what's happening at the hip? So then I've taken that into a return to play dynamic that like it's super fun. It's super rewarding. Obviously, like I've had like some success stories with it, but I love it because I know what that kid is feeling. I know what that kid that said that like, oh, I can't run for the next 3 months, but I need to run right now. I know that like, because I mean, I was told I was never supposed to play sports again and was literally cleared less than 2 months later. Like it's real, and that psychology dynamic and finding that middle ground between the kids is some of like my favorite things to do.
How has this spinal engine thing kind of taken off? Because I feel like that's, I mean, I remember learning about that from the Altus crew back in COVID. Like,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden it's kind of popping up all over social media.
Yeah, like I feel like we're taking more into account because it's even just like Landmine University has gotten like a good amount of like a following. Being able to bend, like more people are doing more med ball work, more rotational work, like everything else. So it's just like I think at the basis of any of that is spinal engine, and Altus just naturally goes through kind of like cyclical dynamics. I'm a big Altus believer. Like I love all the stuff that they put out, especially for free. But even like their paid courses are phenomenal. Like, I feel like it's catching ground because it's kind of that like cool term too. You're just like, well, what's the spinal engine about? Like, it's just like, it's a cooler kind of like thing. But then like when you read the research and like everything else, it's the same thing. Like the body is extremely complex. So we have to train it complexly because everything's cross sectional, because it's just like at the basis of it is that famous GIF/video of like the guy with like no arms, no legs, still able to walk. Like that's the spinal engine at the end of the day, because it's just creating like rotation. Then we went that full fascia route, which like Dan Foley, tremendous practitioner, tremendous resource, like everything else. But like all of a sudden, fascial based training was super like prevalent. But then it's just like, well, if you look at fascial training, you look at spinal engine training, you look at like just being able to bend well and like everything else, like it's gotten more ground. And I think a lot of it's even just connected to like Bobby Stroop's training of like Patrick Mahomes.
Or even
like everyone's
just right here from super training, where it's inter and intramuscular coordination of harmonious movement and like synchronization of like a throw. Like,
yeah. So I mean, it's like Sherrington's law of innervation, like comes to mind like a lot. But I think just even just from a visibility standpoint, like all of us have watched a Bobby Stroop video of Patrick Mahomes training, and you just see him bending more, and like if you never heard like Bobby Stroop like talk, like just go listen to him talk, and he's just talking about like the ability to bend and rotate and like get into these positions. And then he just takes what Patrick Mahomes does on the field and then applies that in training at the end of the day. So I think like all of those dynamics have now all of a sudden like we leech onto these like coin terms. Like for a while it was just like we got to create a better culture. And then it's all of like those things that like strength coaches just naturally like we latch on to like certain things. So now it's just like, oh, spinal engine is like the new coin term. Spinal engine is just really like an umbrella term of just like the cross sections and the rotations and like the intramuscular connections kind of like through the spine and like everything else. So it's an extremely large umbrella that we fancily make it really specific. And I will be honest, like I've posted a video that makes it fancily specific because it gets clicks, and then all of a sudden we can make maybe a couple more dollars on it and everything else. But it's just it's funny just being in the social media realm, like being a little bit younger, like in the field, like being able to utilize it because COVID created that, like posting stuff that gets clicks, like it matters. So I think like that spinal engine like title at the end of the day gets a lot of clicks, but also raises a lot of questions, because for a while no one was talking about the spine. We were all talking about like squat, bench, deadlift, like all of that. Like we were never quantifying the ability to bend and rotate and everything else, and now that's happening more and more often.
Yeah. Last question for you. I want to respect. I mean, I could talk to you all day. I've never, like anybody listening, Kyle and I, we've talked off air 1 or 2 times via text and then on the phone. I could talk with you all day because I feel like we're very similar values. You got the NHSSCA clinic coming up. You guys, you heading over to it because it's kind of in your backyardish because Memphis isn't too far, but I'm bad at geography.
Memphis is
Okay.
far. But
I'm in the
I am
Midwest
actually missing.
to
Yeah,
preface like
I'm missing it this year. This will be the first year in like 4 years that I've missed it. Frankly, because my exercise physiology study partner is marrying my former college teammate
Oh wow.
in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, and it's just like, yeah, I'm probably gonna make a weekend like out of that. Yeah, so like, yeah, missing NatCon this year, but we'll definitely certainly be back. Certainly be back next year. I've been there the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, Weno and I are going because Weno's tied up at with summer training. But I told him, I was like, put it on, like literally just tell Ryan that we'll be gone for 2026 clinic.
Yeah,
But yeah.
and they'll announce those dates literally like at the end of the clinic next week
Okay,
too.
that's awesome. Anything that you want to leave all of our listeners with, kind of a flagship opportunity, like, hey, this, like, you're talking to strength coaches in private, tactical, college, high school, pro, old to young, in the field. What's kind of your resounding message you want to leave with everybody?
I mean, enjoy the ride. Like, I mean, we've already kind of like talked about it. Like, you got to get good at like a lot of like different things. Don't put yourself in a box early on. That's what I always say to like my like interns. Like now, like don't be like, you don't have to be the conjugate guy like right off the bat. You don't have to be the triphasic guy like right off the bat. You don't have to be the Olympic lifting guy like right off the bat. Because at some point in your career, that's not going to be able to happen. Like going back to like, sometimes you might literally be on plywood platforms with kettlebells and bands and you got to run a Division I strength program. So figure out like what you truly think, and see stuff differently. Challenge yourself to see stuff differently by going to see and hear different things. I think end all be all, our education side of stuff, like there is so much education out there that we just do not take advantage of. Like we go to clinics, or like you don't even go to clinics, but like sometimes the clinics is literally just talking about sets, reps, intensities. If you are presenting at one of those clinics, I challenge you to be outside the box. Like, we don't need more culture pieces at the end of the day. We need more forward thinkers that challenge people to see stuff in a different light. But then the opposite of that is also don't drink the Kool-Aid. Like, where it's just like, if you see RPR for the first time and you're just like, man, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like, I'm going to apply it into the program, like literally when I get back to school on Monday. Like that, there's a silver lining to all of it because it all doesn't work. But being able to be that chameleon and that Swiss Army knife of having those tools in your toolbox is really, really important. But some of the best practitioners have a very large toolbox, but they prioritize the 4 to 5 tools that they truly need. And they don't necessarily stray away from that, but they're willing to use those other things. Because I think like that's my hardest part, because like I love the educational side. Like I love teaching. I love talking to other coaches, but a lot of those people, you just don't take advantage of the continuing education that's literally right there at your fingertips. You just rather scroll Instagram reels than go actually visit a coach that's 30 minutes away from you.
Or continue to work in a different atmosphere like you are. Hey, like you said, backside with the baseball stuff more, like find ways to do other things. Like instead of, scrolling on social media, if you live in an area and you want to continue to live there, find ways to do stuff with the fire department or the police department or
Yeah.
you be creative.
Yeah. I've been super lucky. Like, and I talk to coaches sometimes. I'm just like, I've worked 3 full-time strength and conditioning jobs without moving my house. Make it possible. Like, I promise you there's opportunity out there if you're willing to put in the work, and you got to be able to, be that Swiss Army knife, that chameleon that like, you never know who you're going to reach out to. But if you don't actually reach out, or you don't post that post, or you don't post that video, or you don't go see that coach, like you're leaving stuff for chance. And in today's age, like there is no chance anymore. You got to go make your own chances and make the most of those.
That is a mic drop moment if I've ever heard it, because too many coaches have had to move their families. Kyle, thank you for talking. Like I said, I could literally hang out and chop it up with you all day. look forward to being able to do it at NHSSCA next year and wherever it's located.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
See you, brother.
Have a good one.
Thanks for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, click right here for videos just like that, and make sure you click here to subscribe to our channel. Have a great rest of your day.